Hi, I have a great book today. It is a Christmas book and it has rhyming text. Now, this book was written and illustrated by Robert Barry, and it's called Mr. Willowby's Christmas Tree. This was a book my kids loved when they were little, and it's a lot of fun. Mr. Willowby's Christmas Tree. Mr. Willowby's Christmas Tree. And as I said, the author and illustrator are the same person. So all the pictures go perfectly with the words because he knew what he intended. Mr. Willowby's Christmas Tree came by special delivery. Full and fresh and glistening green, the biggest tree he had ever seen. He dashed downstairs to open the door. This was the moment he'd waited for. A magnificent tree, splendid, he cried. Please, sir, won't you carry it inside? I think it might look best this year, right in the parlor corner here. A parlor is like a living room. Not a word we use that much anymore. And here it is. Uh-oh. Looks like there's a little problem, huh? But once the tree stood in its place, Mr. Willowby made a terrible face. The tree touched the ceiling, then bent like a bow. Oh, good heavens, he gasped. Something must go. Baxter, the butler, was called on in haste to chop off the top, though it seemed quite a waste. That's great, Mr. Willowby cried with glee. Now we can start to trim my tree. And trim the tree means to decorate the tree. When the trimming was well underway, the top was placed on a silver tray. Baxter said, I know just who'd be delighted with this Christmas tree. So it was presented to Miss Adelaide, Mr. Willowby's upstairs maid. Oh, he apparently has a lot of money because he's got butlers and maids. Won't this tree be a pretty sight when I have trimmed it later tonight? But the top, oh dear, I'm so afraid will have to be cut, sighed Miss Adelaide. And so with scissors sharp and long, she snipped off the top while she hummed a song. The top was set out the very next day in back of the house to be thrown away. They didn't tell us what she was humming. I bet it was a Christmas song, though. That little treetop caught the eye of Tim, the gardener, passing by. He certainly was not about to see that little tree thrown out. He hurried home straight away to see what Mrs. Tim would say. Fa-la-la-la-la, surprise, surprise. His wife could not believe her eyes. But our house, she said, is so snug and small. I do not believe we need it all. And before Tim had a chance to shout, she cut off the top and threw it out. What do you think he was going to shout? Don't do it? Don't cut it? Don't trim it? Barnaby Bear was padding by. It almost hit him in the eye. Now who would throw a tree away so very close to Christmas Day? I'll take it home. That's what I'll do. Look, Mama Bear, I've a present for you. "Isn't it a pretty tree?" yawned Barnaby quite drowsily. But Little Bear, standing off far, cried out, "That tree won't hold a star!" And you can see why. Barnaby said, "Let's cut a hunk off the bottom here at the trunk." And Mama Bear just shook her head and sliced the treetop off instead. Who else would want a tree even smaller? "Jolly by golly," Barnaby said with a kick. "Mama, that surely is just the right trick. Let's trim it with bells and honey rings, some berries and tinsel, and popcorn on strings." Mama said, "Trim it just as you like. I've got to tidy up for the night. This top we won't need any more. I'll put it just outside the door." She's cleaning up the house. Later on that frosty night, Frisky Fox came into sight. He spied the treetop, rubbed his chin, opened his sack, and stuffed the top in. He scampered home and jumped his gate. This Christmas present couldn't wait. "It's even better than mincemeat pie," said Mrs. Fox with a happy sigh. Look how happy she is. Then the foxes saw that their Christmas prize was a wee oversize. "There, my dears, don't you worry. I'll fix this up. I'll fix this top now in a hurry." Benjamin Rabbit found it then, just outside the fox's den. "It seems," he thought, "most certainly that Santa left that for my family. Look," he cried, "the tree I found." With that he called his family round. Then there was merrymaking, rollicking, frolicking, carrot shaking, celebration around the tree. All were as happy as rabbits could be. Then there was a merrymaking, rollicking, frolicking, carrot shaking, celebration around the tree. And all were as happy as rabbits can be. Benjamin Rabbit, with his own hand, sliced a carrot and made a stand. Oh, that's clever. Now let's see how this will look in our little chimney nook. There we go. But right away the children cried, "Look, it's leaning off to one side." "It's too tall, that's all," said Mrs. Rabbit. As though it were a summer carrot, she gave it a chop and threw it away. Let me try that page again. Do y'all have to do that, boys and girls, sometimes? You read it and it wasn't quite right? Well, I'm going to do it. "It's too tall, that's all," said Mrs. Rabbit. And as though it were a summer carrot, she gave it a chop and threw away the top. That was a little better. Then Mistletoe Mouse just happened to see that tiny tip of a Christmas tree. He pulled it through the snow and ice. Up some stairs, he fell down twice. So that's a big tree for him, isn't it? And it was icy. And at last he reached his cozy house. "It's just the right size," said Mrs. Mouse. Then at the top, if you please, they put a star made out of cheese. That tree went quite far, didn't it? Oh, wasn't it grand to have a tree exactly like Mr. Willowby? So that top of that tree went around and around the property. And it ended up with the teeny top right near Mr. Willowby, after all. That was so sweet. I love this story. Let's see. I'm just going to go through and show the pages again because it's so funny to see how far that tree went. I'm not going to read it all, but we're just going to look. And here you see that the man cut the tree. And they brought it in. And here's where it started. It was too tall. Too tall. So they snipped it and went to Miss Adelaide. And then it went to the gardener, Mr. Tim. And then it went to Barnaby Bear. I love all the places this tree ends up. And they were happy. Everybody that got this tree was very happy with it. And they're celebrating. And then it went to Frisky Fox. They, of course, were happy with it, but it was too tall again. Oh, and then the Benjamin Rabbit found it. And then the last family to get it was the mouse family, Mistletoe Mouse. And again, it wound up, excuse me for doing that, right next to Mr. Willowby. Oh, I love this book. Mr. Willowby's Christmas Tree. So you know what you can do? You can try and remember all the places this beautiful tree went and see if you can remember them in order. That'd be fun. Mr. Willowby's Christmas Tree by Robert Barry. Hope you have a great day.